Okay, Lowe's 659 detail video notes customer Parker. We have come a long way since the first time we were here. They've got walls and sheetrock and windows and all kinds of good stuff. Start over here on the left-hand side. They've got their LVL beam up and their post. This post is going to be covered. They left me a sample here. Going to be covered with some material. So what we've done is we've measured from the front of the post with the material to this point, which is 4 inches of molding plus a 3/4 build-in. He's got me a 3/4 piece going in the wall here. So each side of the window, we've put a little arrow here and we put a little arrow there of where the actual molding will be as far as the window width. Similarly, over here on the other side of the room, we have a door, no casings yet, but we went ahead and figured through a 3/4 filler front here, which is your build-in of your casing, 3/4 filler front there. That puts your molding right here on the door width here. Same thing here. We've got one piece of drywall up. We're going to assume that the door is going to go straight into the corner like he's got. And then here we've added a 3/4 inch finished board here. And then that's where the marking for the molding of the door is. So kind of give you some explanation of where the marks are that I've made on your walls here. The other thing too, I was just telling her on this wall, this is the pantry wall. And on this wall, you were looking at doing 24-inch pantries side by side from the end of the wall. So a couple things to tell you. These are on 2-foot centers, you probably already know. And when you add a cabinet directly on from that end, 2-foot, 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 the cabinet ends up being dead center on the end panel right here. So the end of this cabinet's here, the end of that cabinet is there. So you don't have any place besides toe nailing to actually attach the cabinet, which is not a really good way to attach the cabinet. So I made some marks up here on the ceiling. If you take a look, there's one at 84 inches, and there's one 3.5 inches down from that. If you can come in here and put me some 2x4 blocks, just blocks in at the top, you know, one in that cavity, one in that cavity, one in that cavity, and then come down here where your sheetrock's already up and put me some in here, here, and here. These cabinets do not have a hanging rail, they have a flat back on them. So it's really, really important that we have at least 2 screws top and 2 screws bottom for these cabinets to work well, as well as the warranty for the cabinets to be correct. So adding some blocking here in the center, and at the top from 84 inches down, 4 foot from the ground on the bottom ones. That's going to be what we need to be able to attach cabinets to this wall with no problems. Now, also, if you look, there's a vent in the floor here. I give the designer some measurements from the wall to the beginning of the vent, from the wall to the end of the vent, to make sure that the pantries and stuff do not come past those. Again, we could slide the pantries to the left just a few inches, but then at the attachment points, you only have the 1, 2, 3 studs for, you know, the 3 pantries. And that's not enough attachment points if you have a lot of food or, you know, some stuff in there that's actually has got some weight to it. We need to have those extra blocking added to this wall to be able to make sure we secure the cabinets correctly. Now, your ceiling height in this room is under 8 feet. It's around 94 inches or so. And that's going to make it even smaller whenever they get done putting the flooring and stuff down. So the 84-inch height cabinet is absolutely the right way to go. Stay away from that ceiling so you don't have any problems with the uneven ceiling. But a couple things to look at here on this wall. This is the stove wall. From the corner to the center of the electrical outlet here, if you look right above it, there is a run outlet, which is like all these GFI run outlets. That run outlet is actually right behind the stove. Now, if it was going to be used for the static igniters and the clock for a gas stove, then it's actually, by code, is supposed to be down here as a run outlet on the bottom and have a separate line for it. It does not have to be a GFI. But then if this is going to be used as a GFI outlet, it's going to be something that's behind the stove, and that actually will be against the code as well, because it's not supposed to be a serviceable outlet behind that appliance. So you could tie those together, you could omit that and just put a cover over it. Then it would also be, if you decided to change the gas, available later as a junction box, and then you could just run your wire down here where you need it. It's inside the same stud cavity. So that would be just fine. Now here, we've got a hole coming out with a wire for an over-the-range microwave. If you're looking at the top of the cabinet is 84 inches from the floor, and the bottom of the cabinet is 72 inches from the floor. So this outlet needs to be in the center here, and it does need to be a plug duplex outlet. All your over-the-range microwaves plug in. They don't actually have a whip or a solid connection like a dishwasher does. So this needs a plug on the wall for us to use. Now this wire is plenty long. You can bring it right over here, no problem. But we need to fix that hole because that hole is actually going to be above the top of the cabinets. See that line right there? That hole is going to be above it. So we want to bring that wire inside, put an outlet in, fix that hole while we're doing the sheetrock. That way we don't have a patch that has to be done later. That's going to be a hard spot to get to above the cabinets. Okay. Everything else is fine, but I did notice here electrical lighting wires. If you're going to be using these two on the right hand side of the stove, and it says this wire connects to the wire over to the left of the window for the fridge, that is another under cabinet light, then there's no lighting wires in this inside section. So I was telling her that probably need to add another wire to this box, 14. It doesn't have to be 12. 12 is kind of heavy for some of these LED light wires, but at least a 14 gauge wire needs to come through and come over here to this side of the stove so that you can have lighting, under cabinet lighting on all of those areas. Now the lighting wires don't have to be in a box like that, but that's fine if that's what you want to use as a junction box. That box though is going to be inside of your cabinet. So we got to make sure that when we do this, that wherever you put these boxes is not in the dead center of where a cabinet M panel comes to. And because I don't have the final drawings, because this is going to change where this electrical is at, is going to change that. I don't know where to lay those out yet. So double check your elevations. Make sure that you're not going to be in the center of an M panel on one of your cabinets. Make sure these wires are not going to be between two cabinets, in other words. Something to talk about here on the sink base area. Right now the drain is too short, and so is the blue PEX too short to come up through the bottom of the cabinet. That looks like that's a hot CPVC, maybe, hot wire, or hot pipe. I need all of the pipes to be at least as long as the CPVC one because the bottom of the cabinet, the depth of the toe kick is 6 inches to get to the inside of the cabinet. So the CPC is the right height. We just need to make sure we get the PEX and we get the drain line up high enough to do that. And then also, I was telling her, having the toe vent underneath the sink is just fine, but we have to have some type of duct to get that to the front of the cabinet. The bottoms of these cabinets are just an open particle board. They will sweat as it gets cold underneath there from the air conditioning. The sweat can eventually turn into mildew. So we do not want to put unducted air underneath the cabinet on a store stock cabinet. It is not laminated or painted on the bottom of the cabinet, and it can cause mold issues. So we definitely want to do some type of ducting, and we can do that when we install the cabinets. We can actually build a little square plywood duct, set on top of that to direct the air to the front. But also we need to order a 2-inch by 10-inch or 2-inch by 12-inch air return, an air vent to go on the front of the cabinet toe kick. That can either be a register or it can be a cover. Either one of those two things will work, but we need to make sure that we include that in the order so the customer has a finished opening for that. The sink base, by the way, in store stock comes without a back in it. Now you've got a unfinished sheetrock wall here. All your other cabinets will have backs in them. So make sure that when you design this kitchen that you make this cabinet a base 36, not a sink base 36. Make it a base 36, and we will convert it into a regular sink base by attaching the drawer front. Okay, that creates a much better situation for the customer because when they open the doors on a store stock sink base, you can see the wall, and that means that wall's got to be finished and painted and everything else. So much better situation if you order that as a base 36 and have us convert it to a sink base. So make sure you put that on the floor plan as a note. The last thing to talk about is where the refrigerator is. There is no water box or water connection for that. But because you're on the same wall as the sink, then you can actually get a 20-foot or 10-foot probably will work, 1/4-inch connector and just run that through the backs of the cabinets. The cabinets all have 4 inches behind the drawer, 3 inches behind the drawer to run electrical and water in with no problems. So just make sure you sell them at least a 10-foot appliance quarter-inch supply line, and that way we can get the water through the backs of the cabinets and over to the refrigerator area. Probably also a quarter-inch needle valve to put at the end of that for them to hook up to the refrigerator, and that way you have two ways of turning the water off instead of cutting the water off to the sink if you need to pull out the refrigerator. That's pretty much it. Have any questions about this, feel free to give me a call. I'll have the drawings and stuff back to you in the morning. The number to reach me is 423-650-1051. You have a good day.